Hello, welcome to VMC. I am Dr. M. Today we are going to talk about considerations that you should have if you are looking to adopt an animal from some sort of a shelter or rescue organization. Join me today, you'll learn something. I also want it to be very clear that supporting an excellent breeder is ever insinuated as being a bad thing. We need to do that to continue having excellent genetics and having dogs, especially working dogs, where we need a specific set of skills, and a lot of that can be influenced significantly by genetics for people that are looking for an animal that does a very specific purpose. Now, that being said, we absolutely must not be supporting backyard breeders and puppy mills. I do explain the definitions of those and what they look like in the series about how to evaluate breeders. So we will not cover that again today. We will just move on to the different types of organizations that tend to advertise adoption for animals that they have. Now, one thing that I want you to be very careful about is where you consider adopting from. There are so many organizations that are not properly caring for animals and that are not reputable, and a lot of these facilities or organizations end up becoming hoarding situations where these animals suffer and are overcrowded and are not cared for, and so that is a very common issue in the adoption realm side of things, and this issue became even more prevalent when no-kill shelters became popular, trendy. That no-kill has become a bit of a buzzword, and although the theory of it is great, we would obviously love to not be euthanizing animals that aren't sick and suffering emotionally, behaviorally, or physically. Unfortunately, that is not a reality. The reality is that there are animals that are unwanted and that have no quality of life because they are being kept in a crowded, confined space where they don't have the quiet and rest that they need, and where they also don't get the enrichment that they need by having bonds with people and sometimes even other animals. And so living in a shelter environment for an extended period of time is not an acceptable way for an animal to be forced to live. They don't have enough space, they don't have enough enrichment, they have too much stress, they have too much noise, and these animals do experience a lot of suffering. And when they are left in shelters for years and years and years and years, this becomes a cruelty instead of being a good thing for that animal. And as a veterinarian, I have come across many, many situations where a kind, peaceful euthanasia is much kinder to the animal than continuing to exist in the situation where they are experiencing a lot of suffering, whether that is behavioral or physical in nature. Both cause a lot of distress to animals and need to be addressed. So often when you are looking for agencies that will be licensed and maintaining a certain standard of care, those facilities are often the SPCA or have SPCA in their name. Another common one would be a humane society. Beyond that, you can also often find decent rescue organizations that are breed specific. This is often because there are people who are very passionate about that breed. Then when we get beyond that, that's when the waters start to get a lot muddier. And there's case after case after case of different rescues and different organizations that even if they were licensed, that they quickly devolved from a decent group into an overwhelmed hoarding situation. And then the SPCA ends up having to go in and remove all the animals from that situation and shut it down. So it is very important that if you are considering adoption, that you see the facilities where the animals are kept, and you should expect them to be, in good repair, clean, not overcrowded. It should be, reasonable run, just things that have some enrichment in them, that have some toys, that have some space, that have a frequent access to the outdoors for the dogs, a place where you can tell that the organization is smoothly run and doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. I would also expect that there will be an adoption fee, and depending on where you are adopting from, this will commonly include spaying or neutering of the animal, a start to the vaccine series at a minimum, and some basic parasite prevention. There are still tons of costs to having that pet, so you cannot simply look at the cost of purchasing. You also need to be considering finishing the vaccine series, if they have dental disease, treating that, and then you'll also have to be working with a research-based positive reinforcement animal trainer in order to help teach your new pet the behaviors that will help them and you to bond together and have a smoother life and routine in your household. You will also, of course, have toy costs and bedding costs and pet insurance costs and food costs, harnesses, car seat belts, the list goes on. And so checking that your monthly budget can handle having the ongoing costs of a pet is very important before you ever look into adopting. Do not ever give someone a pet as a gift. That is a huge no-no. It should not be done. You could, if you are a parent wanting to add a pet to the household, you could talk with the family about the responsibilities of adding a pet, financial and time responsibilities, that is, who would be caring for what aspects of the pet and how that might fit into the household. But then you need to really take your time and go through and look at animals over a period of time, and that can be a few months before you find a pet that might be a good fit for your household. And you should be meeting the pet during that time. You should be spending time with them. The adoption facility will also be screening you to some degree, asking you to fill out information about what sort of an environment you have to make sure it is appropriate for the pet you are considering. I would also expect any adoption facility to act incredibly professional, both online and in person. Make sure that these animals are receiving veterinary care while they are in the adoption process. That's very important, both for the health of all of the animals that are closely interacting, but also just to screen for pets that are experiencing a lot of suffering, or who might not be safe to interact with other people or other animals. It's very important that those animals are not just passed on to somebody else to deal with. That's very irresponsible, and in many places is even legally negligent. And if you are passing on an animal, say that has a bite history, when that animal bites in that new environment, the person who allowed that pet to move to that new environment is going to be legally responsible for the harm and damage that that animal has done in its new environment. So there just are cases where, unfortunately, the best answer to reduce suffering for that individual animal is sometimes a humane euthanasia. Some places will allow you to do fostering if you're looking to volunteer to help out for animals that need a bit more intensive care for a while, but if you aren't able to commit to taking one on for the rest of its life. In a shelter situation, in a rescue situation, these animals are under a lot of stress, and how they behave in that environment is going to be different from how they behave in the home environment. Having that adjustment period is an important thing to anticipate going in. There is this 3-day, 3-week, 3-month adjustment period meme that goes around. It's catchy, but it's not based on anything real. It's not true. It's not accurate. And it often sets people up to have expectations for how the animal will be after a certain time period. In reality, that's just not how it works. Each animal is going to be individual, and each animal could take anywhere from hours to years to fully adjust to being into a new environment. And so simply having one join your household and have, timeline milestones to hit is setting everybody up for failure. So throw those expectations out the window. Just meet each individual animal where they are at and allow them to adjust with the time frame that they need. Remember that patience is going to be key for this animal whose entire world has been dumped upside down a few times. So if you are looking to adopt an animal, adopt it locally, adopt it from a reputable organization. These pets do need homes, and so people who are able to adopt absolutely should. It's a fantastic option to consider and can be very rewarding to help an animal that is in need. I hope you have enjoyed this video and have learned something. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do next. I've had a few requests and I'll have to see. All right, you take care. Bye.